Welcome to the platform. I'm Cheche Lazaro. How much is the presidency and how far do candidates go to win Malacanang? In our final pre-election episode, we'll hear what your presidential bets have to say about money, ads, and the limits set by law. We'll check if they walk their talk in their own campaigns. In what observers call the most expensive presidential election in Philippine history. No spin, no mudslinging, only the platform.
Are they presidential candidates or bars of soap? Senators Manny Villar and Noynoy Aquino have spent so much on political ads that they joined the ranks of popular soap and shampoo brands listed in the top 20 advertisers for the first 3 months of 2010. Data from Nielsen Media Monitoring Agency show Villar is the 6th highest advertiser, spending 1.2 billion pesos, while Aquino is the 11th top advertiser with 526 billion pesos in total placements. The huge expenses of candidates like Villar and Aquino trigger calls for reforms in campaign finance and spending, as watchdogs fear they will recoup their expenses or protect vested interests if elected. The presidential bets themselves proposed changes to the system. Even before the campaign period began, Aquino told the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism last November that he is open to state funding for political parties.
Parang mabawasan yung pressure na makalikom na napakaraming resources. Nasa naman nagiging pag-uutang na loob na kailangan bayaran pagdating ng panahon.
Brother Eddie Villanueva is also in favor of government funding for poor candidates to level the playing field. For Senator Richard Gordon and his nephew JC De Los Reyes, the spending limit for presidential candidates of 10 pesos per voter should be lowered.
Dapat mababa para sa ganon hindi magnanakaw yung kandidato. Sa kung gusto naman ninyo, debate na lang palagi.
Gilberto Chudoro's party mate and ally Lakas Kampi President Francis Manglapos says the law on spending limits has to be reviewed because of what he calls economic realities. But Nicanor Perlas believes the limit is enough and candidates should not spend a lot on ads. Former President Joseph Estrada agrees that the cap is enough, but for a different reason.
Siguro ngayon, sa kamukha ko, hindi naman ako nag-aakot ng tao dahil may awareness ng tao sa atin dahil naging artista tayo.
Senator John B. Madrigal meanwhile proposes regulation for ads before the start of the campaign period. She's referring to the commercials of Villar, but the Nationalista Party standard bearer defends his spending and even takes a swipe at his toughest rival, Aquino.
That is why I have chosen to respect the law and not put my political ads before. People who have spent 2 billion pesos in ads, who think they can buy Malacanang.
Sabi ko nga, ako anuman ang aking dami ng aking commercial, hindi siguro ko mapapantayan ang kasikatan na isang sikat na celebrity o ina na sikat.
Whatever the candidates' justifications are, watchdogs hope lessons from the 2010 polls will lead to changes in the way campaigns are financed and audited. That way, candidates and public office will no longer be reduced to goods for sale.
Some of the interviews you saw are from the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism, which is part of Pera't Pulitika, a consortium monitoring campaign expenses. Checking the platform tonight on campaign finance and spending are Attorney Roberto Cadiz, coordinator of Pera't Pulitika, and Beckie, Malay, Secretary General of the Consortium on Electoral Reforms. Welcome to the platform, Beckie and Attorney Cadiz.
Thanks for having us.
Attorney Cadiz, you were saying that sky is the limit as far as this election is concerned. Why?
Largely because COMELEC, who is the regulatory agency, is not able to or does not have the capacity to properly enforce campaign finance laws.
Okay, and Beckie, you said that this election is different from other elections we've had in the past. What's the difference?
The difference now is that the playing field has shifted mainly to broadcast media. It is very expensive to buy ads. So,
but it always was. Even in the past election, broadcast media played a very big role.
Yeah, it did. But at this point, they're really wanting to crowd out the space, crowd out each other. So the spending is too much.
Okay. Why is it important for us to tackle this as an issue in the elections?
I think it's very important because in a democracy, anybody who is qualified to run for a position should be able to run. But at this point where there's a lot of spending that is going on in terms of the limits to spending are actually breached, only the rich people are able to run for positions. So it's very difficult. It doesn't level the playing field in that way.
All right, and speaking of the leveling the playing field, let's hear what the candidates have to say and assess their stand by giving them either a full, three-quarter, half, quarter, or no shade on the ballot. Let's start with Brother Eddie Villanueva, who supports state funding for poor candidates. Let's listen to him.
In a way, dihado kami kasi wala naman kaming pambayad sa mga malalaking television station. Pero, ang taong bayan ang aming kakampi, yung bang clamor for change.
All right, what is that, how significant is that statement?
I think it's very significant because it signals some reform that has to be done in campaign financing. At this point, only the expenditures are being checked, but not the contributions. So the supply side is not actually very much monitored. So also in our politics, it's the candidates that have to raise money and not the parties because we don't have a very strong party system.
Okay, and for that, what kind of a grade would you give Brother Eddie?
I'm giving him one half shade.
Half shade?
Yeah.
All right. Is that a good policy or not?
I think it is.
It is a good policy. Attorney Cadiz, you said that even if Brother Eddie says that they cannot afford to be on TV, yet he has had a lot of appearances on QTV.
Yes. So I don't think it's. I think the reason why he can, partly the reason why he can afford to say that we should implement all these limits is because he himself has practically unlimited access to a TV network.
So
which
what's wrong with that?
Well, because the 120 limit adjusts to all applies to all networks, and I believe that in his QTV he has already also exceeded
his
the limits.
And for that, you give him a grade of?
I gave him a grade of 1/4 shade.
A quarter shade. All right. As we move on to our next candidate, let's now look at Noynoy Aquino, who is now the front runner and, as you have said in some of your papers, the second highest spender in this election. Senator Aquino is in favor of government funding for campaigns. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Lalo na yung masyadong media-centric na kampanya ngayon, yung attendant cost, napakataas nga yan. Baka maganda nga lalo natin tutukan yung ginagawa sa ibang mga bansa na yung mga lehitimong partido ay nagkakaroon ng counterpart funding from the government.
Right, Attorney Cadiz, your turn.
Yeah. I have problems with that on a practical level because the way we see it, we don't have a mature political system now. So there's practically no difference among the parties in terms of ideological framework. So I don't see how it will take a lot of nuancing before that suggestion can be implemented.
Okay, but is it a good suggestion?
It's a good suggestion, but in terms of implementation, it will take some time.
Okay, and for that, you give Mr. Aquino what grade?
I gave Mr. Aquino 1/2 shade.
Okay. Beckie, in your case for Mr. Aquino, you have said that he has not been active in the advocacy of electoral reforms. What do you think of his current suggestion?
I like his current suggestion because it actually is what we wanted. But in the years that he has been in Congress, he has not supported us in that advocacy. So I'm not very sure now why he is advocating for that, maybe because he felt the pressure of the expenditures.
All right, and for that you give him a grade of?
A quarter.
A quarter shade.
Yeah.
All right, another candidate on our lineup